building resilience in children through therapeutic play. First of all, I would like to begin by acknowledging that I am recording this in Mi'kmaq, the traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Thank you. My name is Chantal Piercy and I work for Alice House, located in Nova Scotia. I'm part of Play Therapy International on their register as a therapeutic play practitioner, and I'm a student member of the Canadian Association for Play Therapy. I'm also a student member of the NSCCT. Alice House is a second stage domestic violence charity where I work conducting non-directive play therapy. So previous to working as a child and family counsellor at Alice House, I had a background in special educational needs. And I was a teacher at many different special educational needs schools and also colleges for adults. And I've worked with adolescents in behavioural units in the UK as well. I have a passion for inclusivity and facilitating children to build self-esteem and self-worth. And I'm also a trained Lego therapist. I'm on the MACP, the Master of Arts in Counselling and Psychology with Yorkville, and that's how I'm here today presenting. So thank you so much for that opportunity. We're going to start off with the definition for resilience. So here we're going to use the definition, the ability to return to regulation. So where children are dysregulated, when they are able to return to that regulated state, the green zone, then we're going to be saying that's resilience. And we're going to be helping them build that resilience in the playroom. So benefits of play just go on and on and on. I'm a huge advocate for play. It helps children become creative. It helps increase their confidence, their self-esteem, their self-worth. It helps them problem solve, and it helps them also to integrate past trauma that they may have experienced. And that's what I'm going to be talking to you a little bit today about my clients. So I conduct therapeutic play, which is non-directive and child-centered. So you might have heard it called non-directive play therapy or child-centered play therapy. And I use the AXE-line principles. I develop a warm and friendly relationship with the child. I am accepting, I am permissive, I reflect back or I track so that the child gains an insight. I make sure that the responsibility to make choices is the child's. It is all child-led. I do not hurry the play, and there are a few limitations, but I do anchor the child to reality through using things like the 10-minute warning, the 5-minute warning, the 1 minute, and then the 10-second countdown to 1. So, play also serves as a language for the child, a symbolism that substitutes for words. That's what Violet Oaklander said. We can read a lot through their play because children play out their problems and their experiences, concerns and feelings in a manner that is similar to the process of talk therapy. The therapeutic relationship must be based on empathy and unconditional positive regard being at the forefront, and we're going to be making sure that we're really empathizing with their situation. So I want to jump down here. These are Landreth's tenets for relating to children, and I wanted to talk about number 8, children have the right to remain silent. Where I worked with a 5-year-old girl who had selective mutism, I allowed her to remain silent in the playroom for as long as she needed to, and that was a duration of 5 sessions. And we blew bubbles together, and we would use clay together, and we would use the art together. And this is how we would play in silence. And so I would be holding the space for her, being present for her, and making sure I was reflecting back her body language. But how she actually started to connect with me properly, rather than just the occasional kind of glance, which was happening initially, was she put on a puppet and I put on a puppet the same as hers, the same sort of size, because that's what we were taught with anxious children, either use a puppet the same size or smaller and a non-threatening one. And she came over and she kind of waved at me with her puppet, so I came a little closer and waved at her, and she kind of nodded at me, so I nodded back at her. And then she came over to my puppet's ear and she whispered something into my puppet's ear. And that was the first dialogue we'd ever had in that playroom. So it was so wonderful to hear her even whisper. And then from that, we then went on to her talking every session up to session 12, where she was then talking outside of the playroom, and she was putting her hand up in lessons and answering questions. She was going to social events with her friends, and it was so wonderful to be part of that process. But if I hadn't allowed her to remain silent, it may never have happened. Lisa Dion, the creator of the synergetic play therapy model, states that the child projects their inner world onto the toys and the therapist, setting them up to experience their perception of what it feels like to be them. And this is absolutely true. And it happens to me a lot with the kids that I work with who've been exposed to domestic violence. They need to show me how scared they were. The Play Therapy Toolkit encompasses so many different play mediums. We've got creative visualization, which we can actually create ourselves, and it gives the child a safe space to go in their mind, for example, like a garden, where they can always retreat to. We use therapeutic stories, the published ones, but we can also write them ourselves, and we work through metaphor, so often I'll write stories about animal families. We use drama. A lot of the children come in and they would like to use aggression and express their frustration and aggression in the playroom. So to safely do that, I've cut up pool noodles and we can sword fight with them and things like that. It also helps them to develop social relationships because they can use the role play to work things out and work out how to safely express themselves in the playroom. We use puppets and masks, and we can develop these ourselves and create them ourselves. We use different types of art. We use music. We might be drumming to the same beat. We might be shaking the maracas. We might be listening to their favorite song. We use dance and movement. Dance is actually, and movement is the best way to regulate your body if you're feeling dysregulated. So this is a wonderful tool. We might be waving scarves or fans. We use sand worlds or sand play, and we don't enter into the sand tray unless the child tells us they would like us to. So typically they have a wet sand tray and a dry sand tray. At the moment for COVID, we're letting them use one sand tray each, and I've been using cat litter trays because they can easily stack. And I allow the child to put 3 cups of water into the sand. We also use messy play, we use slime, we use oobleck, we use kinetic sand. We might make some messy play ourselves. And it's wonderful to see the process where a child may come in, make some sort of toxic looking messy play, because that's maybe how they feel their world is at the moment. They're unable to touch it, they're unable to manipulate it, they need support with that. And by the end, they're making a really beautiful messy play, some sort of slime which is rainbow and has glitter all over it, and they're able to manipulate it and make it perfectly. So here we have a water world to the left, which is great for processing grief and loss, and you can use your sand symbols in there. We have one of my bigger sand trays just at the top there with a child's world. This was a teenage girl in foster care, and we're using our sand symbols. And then just at the bottom we have what I use for social skills interventions, but also I might be using one-to-one with a child in a therapy session. Or you can use Lego therapy towards the end of therapeutic play, and you can bring a child's friend in, for example, and the 3 of you can make a really wonderful Lego model, and it creates camaraderie and building teams and sharing and things like that. It's really wonderful. So we're using enabling language, which we call win language. I'm wondering, I'm interested in, and I'm noticing. And we're really connecting the child, and we're really noticing them. And we're validating their experiences. We're attuning to them. So tell me about your picture opens up a dialogue. These are some pictures of a child who I'm working with currently. He's a 5-year-old boy who's been exposed to rather a lot of domestic violence and had quite a challenging time at home. And his relational trauma shows up through monsters. And some of his play is around monsters, and he also likes to draw monsters. Traumatic events are beyond the capacity of our autonomic nervous system to regulate, triggering dysregulation. Hence why the majority of children that I work with come in dysregulated, or they will be dysregulated at some point in the session. So I need to model regulation strategies for them to use. Trauma creates ongoing adaptive survival responses to keep the autonomic nervous system from finding safety in connection. So when you're in your survival state, you are not going to be thinking about connection. You're going to need to regulate first, get into that green zone so that you're able to connect. And that means me helping the child to regulate so that we can connect together, and they can take those strategies outside of the playroom to connect to other people in the world out there, like their peers, for example, and refresh their mind so that they realize they're in a safe space now. So safe and social is where we're in our green zone. We're relaxed, we're breathing easy, we've got a resting heartbeat, we're calm, contented and loved. I'm here, I can. And this is the place where we need a child to be in order for them to learn. Mobilized is going to be our fight, flight or freeze, where we're feeling tense, our breathing is fast, our heartbeat is rising, we're feeling anger, anxiety, shame or rage, and we're looking for an escape route as well. And then we have immobilized, which is our dorsal vagal response, or where a child is shut down. We might see them laying on the floor, laying on a desk. They're floppy, their breathing is low, their heartbeat is slow, they're feeling sad, tired or hopeless. I can't escape, I can't. And you might see some negative self-talk as well, particularly with teenagers at this point. We're wired to connect. As Dion said, we are the child's co-regulator in the room. So we need to notice their physiological states. We can even notice that out loud. I notice you've got a lot of energy. You're running around. Your heartbeat must be going faster. You're looking a little bit sweaty. Shall we do something really relaxing, like take a breath and then do some messy play? Or let's take a breath and then play with some Play-Doh together. We're responding with some sort of technique and we're attuning to them and we're helping them regulate their own body. We've got to be congruent, so we need to be ourselves, and this really creates a sense of safety rather than creating a threat where there's incongruence. So we're actually regulating ourselves, we're modeling this for our client, and we're letting them know when we feel certain things in the intensity of the playroom. So for example, a lot of the children set me up to feel scared because they want to show me how scared they were in the domestic violence situations that they've experienced. So I need to voice that I'm scared. I need to take a deep breath at this point, or take a sip of water at this point, and show them that I'm scared and this is how I regulate, and this is going to model this and help them understand how they can regulate. And factors that promote resilience. So the presence of a loving, supportive adult. My children that I work with are lucky enough to have the presence of a loving, supportive adult who's also receiving counselling and getting help with regulating their body after having such awful disrespect that they've suffered and relational trauma. Positive self-perceptions are going to increase in the playroom because you're allowing the child to solve their own problems. And you might have to sit with their disappointment as well. We're not going to jump in and be their saviour. We're not going to jump in and help them. We're going to sit with that disappointment. And then when you see the epiphany, when they work it out for themselves, it's really wonderful. We're helping to teach them self-regulation skills. We're modelling those. We might give some to mum. We might give some to teacher. We might give them a calm down kit to use outside of the playroom. We're connecting to their faith and culture. They're able to tell us about their faith and culture. They can use the special faith-based and cultural-based toys, and I would advise you to have access to these. We're helping the parent to feel empowered, that they can deal with this. They can regulate their own body to help their child regulate and be the co-regulator. And also, a parent only needs to be attuned at least a third of the time. This is quite interesting, and it helps with the, with the guilt of being a parent, and it helps you think, okay, well, as long as I'm attuned just a third of the time to my child, that's good enough. A positive school environment, we're going to be collaborating with the school. We're going to be giving them some help. Maybe we're a sounding board for the teacher. Maybe we're going to be giving them a calm down kit. Thank you so much for listening. There's going to be a Q&A session